All right, we'll get started today. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're excited to host our final webinar for the 2018 year. We're featuring Trey Curtis of the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Trey joins us today from Missoula, Montana, where the headquarters of BHA is located. And he's going to share with us some insights on the company, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, who I think is a growing presence in the conservation community, and help us to connect with them at the local level and understand what efforts they're doing to lead R3 in the western states and growing across the nation. So Trey, if you're ready, you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Awesome. I'd first like to start by thanking the Council for having BHA on here. I'm really excited about this partnership and very excited to talk to you guys today. I think I'll start by introducing myself. I'm a native of Missoula, where our headquarters is. Really started hunting and fishing at a very young age, and I found that I wanted to pursue a career, something along the lines of conservation. And so I decided to stick around in my hometown and go to school at the University of Montana, study wildlife biology and natural resource conservation. Shortly after graduating, I started interning with BHA when I was a junior, and then shortly after graduating last May, I started full-time with BHA. It was a partnership between BHA as well as a fellowship with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So I did a lot of work with our college program, and I'll give you guys I'll start with opening with BHA's mission and how we operate, and then I'll kind of dive into our college program and our efforts in the R3 community. So I'll go ahead and start with, we were founded in 2004, so we're a very new organization. We were founded around a campfire in Oregon. Out of recognition of problems with the management of our nation's wild places and public lands, we kind of recognized that there were a lot of different groups out there focused on certain species, and there wasn't one group out there focused solely on public lands. And so that's where we found that our work would best be served. So today, BHA is represented by 27 chapters in 2 Canadian provinces. Our 27 state chapters oversee 39 different states. We're nearly at 30,000 members. I would say by December 31st, we'll be at 30,000 members. And we think that's pretty awesome because we've doubled membership every year for the last 5 years. I think a lot of people are really starting to recognize the importance of public lands and that their voice matters in the management of those public lands. A little bit more about our demographics. We recently sent out a membership survey a few months ago, and we got it back finding that 68% of our members are 45 and younger, and so it really shows that BHA is a very youthful organization. And then something else I'd like to bring up is that our party affiliation was broken down into 33% independent, 23% Republican, and 20% Democrat. So we have a wide swath of representation in our membership base. A little bit about the issues we really focused on, and we break it down into 3 different areas: access and opportunity, public lands and water, and then fair chase. And I'll dive a little bit deeper and give some examples into those. So the first is access and opportunity. I think a lot of us know that lack of access is cited by sportsmen as the #1 reason they stop hunting. And so that's sort of the main mission of BHA, but we also recognize that the spirit of stewardship, along with the North American model of wildlife conservation and the public trust doctrine, really make the United States unique, something that you'd be hard-pressed to find around the world. Along with this, we have our stream access, our public waters access campaign. As our membership has grown, our staff base has also grown. Last week in Missoula, we had our all-staff meeting, and we're sitting right around 32 full-time employees, which is up from probably 15 last year. And with that, we hired on Rob Parkins, who is our public water access coordinator, kind of looking at water access issues across the United States and into Canada, and trying to spearhead speaking up for public access to those waters for fishing and recreational use. So looking at the Mountain West states, 72% of hunters in the Mountain West and Pacific states, access is kind of their means to go hunting. And so we are dedicated to providing access to public lands that we own, but we can't set foot on. One of the big things for us, and it was kind of took up a bulk of the last part of this year, was trying to reauthorize and dedicate funding to the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And I'm sure most of you are familiar that didn't go through, but that doesn't mean that we will not be advocating for making sure that that has its place in the United States. So another bucket is public lands and water, and we kind of break this down into habitat conservation, conserving priority landscapes, responsible OHV and ATV use and management, and then defending our public lands legacy. So with habitat conservation, we feel that we have the obligation to fish, wildlife, and their habitat to build partnerships with state, federal, and tribal agencies to ensure that decisions are being guided by current peer-reviewed science rather than emotion or opinion. Conserving priority landscapes, our multi-stakeholder approach is engaging user groups such as ranchers, resource management agencies, hunters, anglers, pretty much everyone in the community to achieve success in a collaborative consensus process while we ensure that fish and wildlife populations have access to the clean water and intact landscapes that they really need to live. Responsible OHV use. So I feel like this is how BHA really got our name, is we support responsible regulations as well as swift enforcement of responsible OHV use. And one thing that BHA does that's very unique that I don't think a lot of people know about is we offer up to $500 to someone who turns in somebody using an OHV illegally, as long as they follow through and they can help get that conviction for that person. And then defending our public lands legacy, we feel that every American citizen is an equal owner of our public lands. That birth rate is so unique to our country, but is being threatened by misguided individual and legislative attacks for fringe interests that seek to seize, transfer, or dispose of our public lands by promoting state ownership, or worse, even selling our children's inheritance to the highest bidder for private gain. And then the last bucket that I mentioned is fair chase, and we recognize that in the early 1900s, Theodore Roosevelt really helped pioneer the standards for ethical hunting. One way that our chapters have really worked on this is looking at the use of drones in hunting and how that has grown in the last 10 years. And so we've looked at legislative action to help ban the use of drones for hunting and scouting purposes. And that just overall, we must ensure that the ethical pursuit of fish and game is upheld as dearly as our own obligation to morality and citizenship. So that's kind of a broad swath of an introduction to how BHA works and operates. I'd like to talk a little bit about our Collegiate Program, which was started around 3 years ago, and it was about the time that I started interning for BHA. They hired Sawyer Connolly to start this campus outreach program, which essentially to start college clubs across the country. And so as I started interning, I also helped start the first college club at the University of Montana, and we kind of narrowed it down to focus the club's attention on 3 different things. And the first is We want to give current hunters and anglers in college a foundation to further their conservation mindset and become active in civic engagement as it relates to public lands, waters, and wildlife. We'd like to give not yet hunters and anglers all the tools necessary to obtain a license to hunt and fish safely, legally, and ethically. And then that last kind of bucket we work in is connecting college students to our state chapters to build the BHA community, really recognizing that BHA has a very youthful energy and that these college clubs are key to fostering the next generation of conservation-minded hunters, anglers, and public lands advocates. So as part of our college program, kind of looking at that second bucket of trying to get new hunters and anglers involved with hunting and angling and BHA, we've started to develop our Hunting for Sustainability program. And as we've progressed the last 3 years, we've kind of broken this down into 3 pillars as well. And we've got our Hunting for Sustainability weekend, our Hunter Mentorship weekend, and then we're kind of working out the details of engaging those students in a day workshop of civic engagement. So I'll go through those programs as well. So the first is our Hunting for Sustainability weekend. We started this 3 years ago in collaboration with the Boone and Crockett Club, and we started at BNC's Theodore Roosevelt Memorial Ranch on the Rocky Mountain front. Absolute beautiful area. Any of you have ever seen pictures, have gone there yourself. And essentially it's a weekend-long course that gives students all the tools necessary to go out, buy a license, and go hunting. We break down how to shoot a firearm, how to hunt ethically. We try to utilize doe tags for the area so we can bring the students down and show them how to actually field dress and then butcher an entire animal into edible portions. We really put a strong emphasis on local sustainable meat, and this we've seen just in student reaction that it goes a long way to actually show how to break the animal down and then how that gets portioned into dinner-sized portions. With this, we did the last 2 years at the University of Montana, Montana State at the Boone and Crockett Ranch, and then this past fall we also expanded into Montana, or Idaho, Colorado, and Wyoming. We also have a lot of our state chapters doing similar programs for adult onset hunters, and so we're looking to work more with them to engage a little bit older demographic as well. But we'd also like to expand this for our college clubs and just college students in general to as many states as we can. So we really are looking to work with other conservation partners, state agencies, as well as federal agencies to bolster and move this program forward. So the second tenet of our kind of Hunting for Sustainability program is this idea of hunter mentorship. And something I'd really like to stress is that this tenet of the program has been driven 100% by students. It was brought on by some of our club leaders that a lot of the students that were attending Hunting for Sustainability weekend, that they had a very good base to go out and go hunting, but it's still very difficult to overcome the great barriers that there are to go hunting by yourself. And so they started to put a weekend together where they paired new hunters or not yet hunters with experienced hunters to either go out and just follow the experienced hunter around while they hunted, or have the experienced hunter help the new hunters. And we've seen a lot of great success and a lot of awesome harvest stories come from this. And then the last part of this program is sort of focusing in on civic engagement. And while this is kind of brand new to the program, our plans, at least here in Montana, are to take the students that attended the Hunting for Sustainability weekend workshop to the state capitol to experience a day with the legislator, kind of breaking down, how a bill becomes a law and how their voice can impact standing up for hunters and anglers in public lands as well. So something else I'd like to talk about, which was sort of new this year, BHA has always been a part of work projects on public lands as well as private lands as it impacts public waters, wildlife, and lands. This past year we started a partnership with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Refuge System. It's really led by college club members. So during the spring and fall semesters we had all sorts of work service days happening. Especially in the fall, we had Public Lands Day on September 22nd, I believe. It might have been the 29th. But just a lot of boots on the ground work to better serve our waters and wildlife. With this, we've seen a lot of our members and then just other members of the community very excited about these types of projects. So we do plan on scaling these up across other refuges, but then also working with other management agencies to foster more work service days in the future. So one of the last things I'd like to discuss is we've started looking at more ways that we can get more hunters afield, especially at that the younger college-aged students. And so we started looking at college student hunting and angling licenses. And so those are licenses that are offered to non-resident students that are full-time in college, and they're offered at the resident prices. We really feel that this is low-hanging fruit in the R3 movement. That age of 18 to 24, 41% of people in the United States are attending college, and we think that that's really just an awesome opportunity for the R3 movement to capture that and really tailor programs to fit their needs. We feel that along with the access to public lands, we need affordability for the students. And it's really important because, as everybody knows, hunters on the landscape are also on the decline, and that college students are, again, just a prime target for recruiting new hunters. So looking across the United States, 27 states currently allow students to purchase hunting licenses at resident prices. 22 do not, but one offers a discount, and that's here in my home state of Montana, and I'll talk a little bit more of that coming up. So where they are offered, such as in Colorado, it was legislative action in 1994 that allowed non-resident college students to purchase resident licenses. In Maine, it was originally brought up by a single citizen, and that their Fish and Wildlife Department just didn't oppose it. And then looking at Wyoming, it's just written in statute that they can purchase those licenses at non-resident prices, or at resident prices. So looking at here in my home state of Montana, it used to be that you could purchase a student license for a non-resident student license as the same price as a resident. But I believe 2 years ago, they changed it to, I guess it was in 2009, they changed it to allow students to buy non-resident college big game combos, or 2016, I apologize, at $525, which is still discounted from the non-resident price, which is probably sitting around $1,000, but it's still very expensive for a college student. And here on the slide, we've kind of got the numbers of the licenses sold. Since 2009, in 2009, they sold 253 of those. In 2015, they sold 477, and now into 2017, which is the last year that we have records, we only sold 106. So that's a difference of 26, almost $27,000 from 2015 and 2017, but a loss of 371 licensed buyers. So looking at states where student licenses are not offered, we've started to reach out and ask, why they don't offer them. The first is there's a worry about tag allotment, and so looking at only offering these licenses to pools of tags that are over the counter or tags such as small game and stuff like that could help alleviate that foreseen issue. Other states are worried about financial losses, and we're really looking at this as a future investment into disposable incomes. They might be in college now, but as they graduate, whether they move away and they want to come back or they stay in that state, we're really looking at this as, in a few years, they're going to have more of a disposable income, and they're able to come back to that state and put more money just into the state economy while they go hunting. Some states have said that they worry that student priorities won't be focused on hunting, and honestly, some of the states have been worried that students still won't put focus on buying licenses, and instead it'll go to other stuff around town or even buying beer. But we feel that there's a lot of engagement out there, and that students will put hunting and angling as a priority for what they want to do with their free time. Other states have asked, how do we know that they're full-time? And I know looking here in Montana with the discounted student prices, just proving their credits is pretty easy. All it takes is a short trip to get their transcript and prove that they are a full-time student. Some states, say you have to be in school for a semester or be going to school there for 6 months. It kind of varies state by state, but it's pretty easy to prove that they're full-time students. So what can we do? This is something new for BHA, but we think working with different state agencies and different conservation partners, we can really start the conversation with state legislators, game commissioners, as well as fish and game agencies to do this collaboratively. It started to come up in a few different states, but with just a few conservation organizations working together and starting the conversation with those state legislators, game commissioners, and fish and game agencies, I think this is a pretty easy conversation to have and something that could be a big win for the R3 movement moving forward. And with that, that's pretty much what I had to talk about. We do have some time to take questions and answers, or take some questions, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Absolutely. And thanks, Trey, for sharing that great information. I definitely see that the conversation about college licensing has brought up one question from Katie Young, who manages licenses in Florida. And you can see it in the chat box right there. She says, we've chatted a bit about licensing for college students in Florida, just within my shop, licensing and permitting. For those states who do this, how do you verify residency, and what else do you require? Any thoughts on offering further incentives to that age group in general and not specifically students? Is that something you guys have considered, Trey?
Yeah, absolutely. So take it question by question here. How do you verify residency? I think just looking at a student's transcript, it's going to verify which state they are a resident and then how long they've been going to school there. And then offering incentives to the age group in general, not specifically students. It's not something that we've looked or took in a really hard look at yet, because it's easy to reach out to that age group when they're all confined on one campus. But but we think as these programs go, or as they grow, it's going to be easier to really have people reaching out and seeing that these programs exist, and that, if they want to go hunting, that there is help out there and people do want to help them go hunting. So I think that's going to have to really just grow organically outside of campuses.
Awesome. A lot of stuff related to R3 has been we've talked about, one partner doing maybe the introductory programs, and then another partner offering, maybe a state agency offering programs to connect and find local access points. So it seems like there's a great opportunity here to kind of bring those partners together and bridge the gap. You guys are starting them out, and then there's opportunities for other partners to step up and take them forward from there.
Absolutely.
So Nick Saziano poses a question: do students tend to participate in these programs as individuals or as groups? And I think you talked about the Hunting for Sustainability project. And is there any indication as to whether they keep hunting together after graduation?
Yeah, I think we've seen that there are certainly, a few friends that will come to these weekends, but for the most part, it's, individuals that are coming to these that are seeking ways to go hunting, because it is something that they didn't grow up in a family that hunted a fish, or they did and they just didn't get involved, and now they are interested. And so I'd say most that come to these types of events are just individuals. Any indication as to whether they keep hunting? Something that we are, I guess, going to be asking for help with is finding a good way to measure statistics and how we need to improve our measurements for understanding how these students keep hunting. We do want suggestions on how to do this and other systems that people have put into place. But I can say that, in the past 3 years that we've done it in Montana, and not knowing exactly what it's going to look like in Colorado, Idaho, and Wyoming this year. In Montana, we have seen that 40% of the students that participate in this program go on to buy a hunting license, and we've actually seen that half of those students have found success and harvested their first animal in the field. So with that, because they are coming as individuals, we don't know if they keep hunting together after graduation, but I think that looking at our hunter mentorship weekend, that a lot of the students are continuing to hunt with a lot of their mentors for that weekend, or at least keep in contact with them, and they can serve as a tool to answer any questions at any time.
That's cool, and it's cool to hear that you're looking to continue evaluating it and asking for assistance in the future too. I think there's a lot of people that are in that same boat, a lot of NGOs, and we're trying to figure out the evaluation aspect and grow together. So it's cool to have you guys as a partner in trying to help solve this problem. So I know this is a question we'll often get, and how does someone sitting on this webinar connect with BHA? You mentioned you have a growing number of chapters and a growing number of states. The goal is obviously to have 50 states covered in the future. If they're in a state that doesn't have a chapter, or if they're looking to start a chapter, can you kind of just give us some advice on how they can connect and maybe spur a different demographic of people to engage with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the easiest way is just go to our website, backcountryhunters.org. A lot of useful information on there. I think one thing that's really important on the website is you can go over to the events tab, and whether your state has a chapter or not, it's likely that your state is in development of a chapter, and that we have events, pint nights, work service days, storytelling events all over the country happening every single night. And so I think that's one of the easiest ways to get involved. If you're interested in starting a chapter, you can click on, or you can go to our staff page and reach out to our new chapter development guy, Ty Stubblefield. Or if you have you already live in a state that has a chapter and you have questions, you can look at the link that Samantha just put on the chat board. That'll take you to a map of all our chapters, and it'll have contact info for each state to get involved with your local chapter. And then you can also look at our staff directory to look at who that chapter coordinator is if you want to start there as well. Beyond that, we have a growing and very lively social media following. And so looking at our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter handles, those are really good places to stay involved and stay up to date on what BHA is doing as well.
Awesome. And you hinted at some of the different events that you guys have started rolling out. You brought a lot of unique events to the table that are attracting a lot of attention. You mentioned pint nights and storytelling events as different models. Can you help us understand these different events and understand the response that people have had to these, maybe why they're fitting a different niche than some of the traditional events in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. I think really what BHA is trying to capture is this youthful energy that our membership really portrays. And we found that, a lot of times sit-down dinners and stuff like that just really doesn't get a lot of people talking to each other. So we looked at ways that we can really get people just standing face-to-face, drinking a beer and talking about these issues. And so we found great success in just, hosting pint nights all over the country and getting like-minded people together to share a beer and talk about, their last hunting trip and, offering them ways by the end of the night that they can get more involved in their local area. Then also, as you mentioned, our Campfire Stories. We've partnered with Filson in the last year and continue to do so moving forward. Just kind of breaking away from that one person standing up in front of a room talking to everybody. This allows for a handful of storytellers to get up and tell, a funny or emotional story that happened on public land and really engage the audience in ways that they can feel more connected to and just have a better understanding that they might not get from just one speaker standing up in front of a sit-down ceremony.
It's really cool. I think some of our archery coordinators in different states have actually participated, sharing their stories. And you might not know, but I think Iowa is working with the local chapter to start to host some events too. The agency itself with Megan, I think she's in contact with Sawyer trying to understand the opportunities there. So it sounds like there are some events that maybe if the agency partners or other NGOs are on here, they might be able to partner and host their event locally. Would that be something you might offer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, a lot of, from my travels, we grew very fast in the Rocky Mountain West and the Pacific Northwest because a lot of public lands are there, and then we also grew on the eastern coast, and we're kind of coming together to start chapters in the Midwest, and it seems that a lot of the new chapter development is coming from people within fish and game agencies who are interested in upholding what BHA works on and what we represent. And so a lot of questions I get are, can I help start a BHA chapter while working for the agency? And the answer is absolutely yes. We have state board members all over the country that do work for state fish and game agencies and then also serve on the board or just as a volunteer for BHA in general.
Very cool. So it looks like there's a comment from Craig. I think it's Craig Tiger from Minnesota, just that Minnesota chapter BHA members help with the Learn to Hunt program in Minnesota. And they become lead mentors, teaching classes and helping out. So it looks like there's some opportunities for partnering and supporting one event. And then Monica Bickerstaff has a question for you, Trey. She states, what are the plans for rolling this opportunity out to adult onset hunters who are not part of the collegiate community? So I guess hunting for sustainability, targeting non-collegiate students. Is that a goal? Or do you think targeting college students right now? Oh, there we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've seen such great success with this, as BHA is a grassroots organization, a lot of our chapter leaders have kind of taken to the hunting for sustainability model, and they've started to mold it and make their own and offer courses for adult onset hunters that are maybe better set for, the weekend warrior, the mom and the dad that just don't have a lot of time. And so we're looking very heavy to our state chapter leaders as they've started these programs organically to kind of start to come up with a best fit program that we can start pushing forward through all of our state chapters and getting some of our state chapter leaders more involved in helping us push this program out as much as possible.
Awesome. Very good. It looks like Minnesota's program is an adult onset program as well. So another question that I thought perhaps might be helpful is you have an event in May. Can you help people understand what that is and maybe share some of the video content? I was surprised to find out about this competition, and I know a couple of our organizations have some really great content coming out that might be eligible in those categories. So could you help us understand what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our national rendezvous coming up in May, and that'll be in Boise, Idaho. And essentially what it is it's a 3 or 4 day get-together for our members. Starts off with a brew fest the first night. We'll have a wild game cook-off for some of our state leaders. We'll have kind of another storytelling event. There will be all sorts of seminars going throughout the weekend, some workshops for our chapter leaders to better engage members in their states to advocate for public lands, waters, and wildlife. And then I think what Samantha was kind of getting at was this public landowner film fest that we're starting to roll out. And last year we started, it was pretty small. We had a number of individuals or members send in videos for this film fest, but we're really trying to make it a little bit different than a lot of the film tours that are going around. And we want these very simple, just 30-second to 3-minute kind of break the mold for what normal hunting or angling or public lands film could be. And, you know, we want to be funny with this. We have a lot of our corporate partners involved. And so with that, we have over $50,000 worth in product donation from a lot of our partners. And one of the sections of the Film Fest is to go out and take your iPhone and shoot a 30-second commercial, whether it's, you know, funny or serious, for this company. And, you know, you could win several $1,000s worth of gear. I'll be able to get Samantha a link to that landing page as well, so you can kind of read about what we have to offer and what the categories for the different video types are as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and we can try to find that link while we're... Okay, sorry, I thought you were...
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll try to get that link for everyone to post here as well, too, and send out in the email to follow up as well. A couple more questions, Trey, that I've gotten texted in. First of all, for Bruce Rich, you will be able to access the PowerPoint. We can share that with y'all. And another one, a question about the events, Trey. What's been the most popular? You have Rendezvous, storytelling, Pint Night. Can you tell us what do you think's been the most popular so far?
You know, I think because our Pint Nights are reaching more people all across the country, I think those have been by far more popular, just because they are, you know, weeknights that anybody can go to. Rendezvous is a big travel for somebody on the East Coast, flying all the way to Boise. And then our storytelling events, while they are happening across the country, they do take longer to put on, and so there's not as many people being engaged with those. But with the Pint Nights, you know, we're just looking at different breweries across the country. They're free to attend. You don't have to drink. You just have to come and show up and tell the last hunting story that you had a field. And so that's definitely been the most engaging, and where most people have really come through the ranks to get more involved with BHA and, you know, become more comfortable with speaking up for, you know, their hunting and angling heritage.
Really cool. That's actually helpful to know kind of the spectrum too, as far as if people want to put an event on, kind of the time requirement. And maybe the final question we'll take here, in case anyone has any last-minute questions to type in there. If people walk away from this webinar today, what one area would you say you need the most support in helping to connect to our free events and programs and connecting people to BHA in general?
That's a very large question, but I think the most important thing that somebody could do, I might be biased working directly on our 3 programs, and so I would ask, obviously, for people to reach out to me to talk about those programs, but I think the most important thing people can do is go to our website, learn about specific things that we're doing in their area, and then if you are interested in what we do and you do want to support us, then become a member and get more involved. Reach out to our chapter leaders, some of our other members, or even some of our staff people, because we want more voices in the arena, and we're more than thankful for more people stepping up and wanting to help BHA put its mission forward.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions we have for today. Thank you, Trey. Is there any last words? You answered that question perfectly. So is there any final thoughts you want to share with the group before we sign off for the evening?
All I can, I think I ended pretty well, but all I can say is, thank you, Samantha and Kristen and the council for, allowing BHA to be a part of this webinar. We really are looking forward to working with you guys specifically, but then everybody else on the call and everybody else that will hear this, we're looking forward to working with as many partners as possible to keep advocating for the best interests in our public lands, waters, wildlife, and the future of our hunting and angling heritage.
Very nice, sir. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. We will have a recording of this webinar posted by Friday, so you can catch it before the Christmas holiday. We'll share it in our newsletter in the beginning of the new year. Kristen is posting a SurveyMonkey link to give us feedback. In that forum, you can actually provide your contact info so that if you want people to reach out to you from BHA, whether that be Trey, Sawyer, or someone else locally, you can submit that information. We are looking for new ideas for webinars in 2019. So if you have some thoughts and want to tell us what you think, drop us an email or fill out the survey and tell us what you're looking for. And finally, the PowerPoint and everything will be posted with the recording, but we'll be emailing and messaging through the R3 community, the survey link as well as the webinar link and everything too. So if you don't receive that, reach out to Kristen or I, our names at cahss.org, and we'll follow up with you. So without further ado, have a great holiday season, and we'll see you in 2019. Thanks for your time, and thank you, Trey.
The leader has disconnected. The conference will be terminated in 5 minutes.